Hey, what's up? It's Comic95 the Savior, and for this video I want to talk about the new topic of the fact that Japan has lifted the mandatory mask mandate thingy. Now, let me explain this a little bit briefly before Miss Smartass jumps in. Yes, there was no formal requirement for you to wear a mask, but there technically was. The way that it ultimately worked was you were not legally required to wear a mask when in outdoor public spaces. However, if you were not wearing a mask inside of private spaces, such as going to the mall, going to stores, etc., I literally experienced this at the beginning of the pandemic, back when it was actually hard to find masks. People would literally not let you come inside of their stores. And as far as work goes, it was also a requirement. You had to wear a mask. So while you can technically say, oh, you weren't forced to wear a mask, you kind of were. It was the equivalent of how it was in the US and other countries. So yes, written in law, no, you don't have to wear a mask. But if you didn't wear a mask, you pretty much couldn't go anywhere. Not to mention the social stigma of being the only person not wearing a mask, or even if it's you and somebody else, people are going to look at you like you're crazy, like you're being rude and disrespectful. That's just life and reality. And to be honest, I had no problem with this during that time, because we didn't fully understand what's going on with this situation, with, this whole virus and whatnot. There was a lot that was unknown, and honestly, there still is. So not to get too much off into that, just want to get that out of the way to begin with. But yeah, there's been a lot of talk of people complaining, of course mostly foreigners, about the fact that people are still wearing masks here. I think everybody expected Japanese people to magically stop wearing masks on the 13th, Monday, which was also a great timing because the day after was going to be White Day. Now, I will be honest, I did expect to see a lot more people going maskless, but actually a lot of people did. There weren't as many people wearing a mask as there previously had been. Of course, if you were not wearing a mask, you did stand out because the majority of people around you were wearing a mask, but a lot of people did drop their masks, and actually it happened before the 13th. I went out on the 11th and I literally saw tons of people. I'd probably say maybe about 40% of people were going maskless when I was outside. On public transportation, everyone was wearing it, but outside, people pretty much dropped the mask. I saw a few people on trains and buses that weren't wearing masks, so yeah, it's going to slowly change. And this is Japan for you. Nobody wants to be the first person to stop wearing a mask. Nobody wants to stand out. And of course, just keeping it real, not justifying it, just telling you from a Japanese perspective. There's also a little bit of a fear of not wearing a mask because now there's a lot of foreigners that are entering the country for, spring break, to the cherry blossoms, etc., and it hasn't even been a year yet since tourism has fully reopened without you having to do a vacation package. And on top of that, of course, people have allergies here. The weather is still kind of cold, and also keep in mind that Japanese people also see it as a way of shying out. If I made a video about this before this whole mask thing became mandatory. People like to wear masks because it makes your face look smaller. It makes you look more attractive because it hides literally half of your face. On top of that, as a woman, I can speak for myself in particular, but this is true for Japanese girls too. You don't have to wear makeup. People don't see, the scars on your face, acne scars, etc. It makes it so much easier to run to the grocery store. I don't feel the need to put on full face makeup, etc. So yeah, it's super helpful, especially if you wear bangs like how I do, because then you can't really see my eyebrows either. just little things like that. So it's several different factors. Sorry guys, my light. It's several different factors as to why people are not wearing, or not wearing masks. Why they haven't stopped, wearing a mask. It's beneficial. You don't have to wear makeup. It hides scarring that you might have on your face or pimples, blemishes, etc. It makes most people look more attractive by wearing a mask. And yeah, on top of it, you can also hide your facial expression, And then, of course, there's allergies and whatnot. There's literally a whole list. I could literally give you 10, 20 reasons why people are still wearing a mask. But the biggest one is definitely the social stigma. Nobody wants to be the only person not wearing a mask or to stand out for not wearing a mask. And people see it as a way of, just being a little extra cautious. Keep in mind, there's also a lot of elderly people in Japan, and a lot of young people are afraid of, spreading the virus and giving it to, loved one, family member, whatever, at home. Young people have died from this too. So there's a lot of concern. There's a lot of paranoia, regarding the whole situation. So yeah, there's that. It's not a matter of it being a political issue. It's rather people being afraid on a social level. It's not because people are afraid so much of the virus per se, but rather people are afraid of being the only one not wearing a mask, standing out, etc. People, like Japanese people, I'm sorry to put this way, I'm just going to keep it blunt with you, they don't have minds of their own. Just keeping it real. I'm saying it as it is. They do whatever everyone else is doing. It's like being in high school or something like that. You might think, let me say on an adult level, okay? We're going to talk about adults. Every grown woman wants to have the same few brands, the same shoes, same purses, same everything. I bought myself a pair of Christian Louboutin heels, and they are the most uncomfortable shoes I've ever worn in my entire life. The best shoe I've ever had was honestly Payless's Comfort Plus. It's a tie between that and Shimamuda, whatever the name of that cheap store is. They're cloche heels. Those shoes are $20 or less. They are the best high heels I've ever had. I paid $700+ for those Louboutin shoes. They were so awful. I think I wore them outside only once and just to go to the convenience store. I couldn't make it anywhere else. It was far too uncomfortable. I tried using a shoe stretcher. I bought the shoe already a size up. Nothing was going to work. Most uncomfortable shoe ever. So with that said, yeah, a lot of people lie to themselves and make themselves believe they really like a bag, a handbag, or they really like shoes or whatever, because everyone else likes it, everyone else is doing it. Japanese people do this too. But in this case, this is a matter of no one wanting to stand out. I think of it even as a black woman. Think about it growing up in school. And I could be honest, I'm an adult now and I do what I want to do, because I personally do like this. But a lot of people, you want to have the same hairstyles. If everybody has micro braids, if everybody has a perm, or relax or whatever, you want to have that same hairstyle because everyone else around you has it. You don't want to be the one that stands out because you got a big old afro. Or, you have whatever. You don't have no braids like everyone else. So it's literally just a matter of peer pressure in a sense, but in this case, the peer pressure also leads to the fact that by not wearing one, it makes it seem like you're careless. People might want to avoid you. Not to mention, I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of glad that a lot of people are wearing a mask, because a lot of people in Japan, I tell you guys about my issues that I had with here, people cough, sneeze without covering their mouth and nose. Most people here do not wash their hands with hot water and or soap. Don't fight with me, fight with your mama. If you live in Japan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's tourists that have been here that have tried to talk about this too, and Japan worshippers were like, well, that's not true. Try to talk about the US, etc. It's like, no, if you live in Japan, you know what I'm talking about. Hot water is not existent in public places. Many people don't even use it at home, and soap is generally either not used or it's not even available. That's all a whole nother story. And then even when people do wash their hands, normally just for a 2-second whatever. So with that said and done, I love the fact that a lot of people are still wearing masks for that reason. And I can even speak for myself. I've gotten sick a lot less since we started wearing masks. I've literally been sick since this whole mask thing started maybe 2 times over the past 3+ years. I used to get sick seasonally because of course people around me were also sick and I would get their germs. So with that said, just explaining to you guys that this is not going to probably go away anytime soon, unless the only way that I see a lot of people stop wearing masks, it's still not going to be everyone, is this summer. I think a lot of people are going to stop. It won't be everyone, but a lot are, because the heat will become unbearable. And to be honest, even in the past, like the last year or two, people did stop wearing masks during the summertime, but they felt the stigma to put it back on eventually too, but they will take it off to cool down. I personally had a heat stroke last year from wearing a mask and doing walking, etc. So I can speak for myself. While I normally do try to conform and do what everyone else is doing, I will draw the line with mask wearing in the summertime. I will wear a mask as long as the weather is somewhat cool, as long as most people are doing it. Just keep it real, be real with myself. But once it starts getting hot and I have a very low tolerance for heat, my mask's coming off. I ain't finna sweat to death and be burning up to do what everybody else is doing. It's not even just a matter of copying everyone else in that sense. It's a matter of copying them to show respect. Because by not wearing a mask, it's like you're being disrespectful. You don't care about getting other people sick. You don't care about spreading your germs, etc. I'm a blessed person that I don't have to deal with allergies. But keep in mind, a lot of people are also going to be wearing masks during this time. It's still spring. Well, it's not spring yet. It's winter. It's going into spring. As of the making of this video. But you won't see this until spring, more than likely. Yeah, they're afraid of, their allergies acting up and dealing with your runny nose, etc. It really just saves you a lot in that sense. And again, the mystery of not being able to see people's nose and mouth, what they're thinking, you don't have to have a fake facial expression, look happy or whatever. So it does a lot of people's favors, and a lot of people's workplaces still require them to wear masks. So keep in mind that while the public might not have to wear masks, your workplace can still tell you that you have to wear a mask because they hire you, they decide the rules, etc. That's not up to you. So yeah. And then medical workers. For example, my husband, he's still required to wear a mask at work. It's not a choice for him. However, I will be honest, on a personal level, he still wants to wear a mask too. And I haven't really talked about this, but to be totally honest, I think that on a personal level, it's more so because he feels the stigma, social stigma, because everyone else around him is wearing one. Now, I also want to debunk some crap that I keep seeing people say online. Let's talk about the history of wearing masks in Japan. Very briefly, not talking about how far it went back, whatever. But I do want to say, people in Japan did not wear masks like a lot of foreigners seem to think. It was a very rare thing, and I talked about this actually on a post that Gaijin Pop made, and I left a comment on there too. Mask wearing was something that was done only if you had allergies and or if you were sick, and when you did wear it, you stood out. I literally remember working in Osaka at my first real full-time teaching job that actually kept the whole contract for a year. And I remember going outside wearing a mask, and people were literally looking at me and like laughing because apparently I looked funny because I was wearing a black mask, and black masks were not so popular back then. And I actually bought my mask at Daiso, so I'm thinking like, okay, it was a charcoal mask. Oh my god, it made breathing so much easier. I was sick at the time. So, yeah, you got a lot of attention for wearing a mask. And then even when I wore a white mask, people would look at you. They would think, oh my god, are you sick? What's wrong with you? Whatever. I had a professor that actually, was wearing a mask because she claimed she had some sort of, I don't think she was really sick. She had some sort of sore in her mouth or whatever. I don't know. She didn't want us to see it. I don't know if she had herpes. I ain't finna get into all that crap with you all. But long story short, she didn't want us to see. She wants to ask some questions, etc. So she just explained, look, my mouth is really ugly right now. I'm not gonna go into detail with you guys, but this is what she was saying. So basically, I'm wearing it for that. I'm fine. Don't worry. So it was a big deal. If you wore a mask, you had to pretty much explain yourself. Yes, it was a fashion thing for people like in Shibuya and whatnot, but generally speaking, even those people, you got stares and attention. Wearing a mask was not normal on that level. It was not. It's the equivalent to using a power chair in the U.S., how I would see it. You're not going to get a ton of attention because we're used to seeing fat-ass people using power chairs at Walmart. But realistically, if you are using a power chair and everyone else around you is walking, do we not look at you? Yeah, we do. We kind of notice, hey, there's only one person here wearing a power chair, using a power chair. Are we going to necessarily, be like, there's somebody's using a power? It's not that type of big deal. You know what I'm trying to say? It's kind of normalized in the U.S., sadly. Okay, this is somewhat of the same situation. That was a weird example to give, but you get what I'm trying to say. This is the same situation. Wearing a mask was not common. If you saw people wearing a mask, they stood out back then. If you saw somebody wearing a mask, you would assume they were sick. And the second one, maybe they have allergies, but normally it was because they are sick, and they did stand out. You could normally count the people on the train or bus or even walking down the street that had on a mask versus the ones without. Now it's quite the opposite. You can count the people that are going maskless versus the ones that, do have on a mask. You stand out for not wearing a mask. It's become the opposite. And now instead of people questioning why you are wearing a mask, people, I won't say they'll question you, but they'll think to themselves, why is this person being so rude and disrespectful for not caring about the rest of us and they're not wearing a mask? And it makes it even worse when you're not wearing a mask, such as the white people that were sitting next to me at Disney, and then you have the audacity to be sick and or have allergies and you're coughing and hacking and sneezing all over the place. It's super rude, disrespectful, annoying, and, well, gross. So, with that said, I have super mixed feelings on the whole topic, but I'm not so much trying to get into my own 2 cents. I just want to debunk this whole stupid thing that I keep seeing people spread online, mostly white foreigners, that seem to be really upset over the fact that people have a problem with people continuing to wear masks here. And they could just say, oh, Japan's been wearing masks since before COVID, whatever. Like, yeah, but not on this level. And I don't understand how people can't just admit that they're wrong about something. So let me just read this comment that I left and what somebody else left in response to what I had to say. So, I'm literally on Instagram right now. Gaijin Pot left a post explaining that the Japanese government, they lifted the mandate on wearing a mask. And what I mean by mandate is basically now when you go around Japan, there's no more signs up on public transportation or inside of restaurants, etc., asking you to wear a mask. The dividers have pretty much left everywhere too. There's no more requirements for you to use that crap. And some places even got rid of the hand sanitizer. Not blow dryers. Hand dryers are now available inside of a lot of public places where you no longer have to use your own hand towel. Little things like this are, changing. Really big things if you think about it. So, of course, most people are choosing to still wear it. You have the option to go without it. You're no longer being asked to, talk quietly and to put on a mask when you go up to get food from, the buffet or whatever. Like, little rules like this, big rules, I should say, have changed. So, yeah, people, I think a lot of foreigners were shocked. They were expecting everyone to be like, oh, yes, no more masks, yay, and then make it where almost no one was wearing a mask. But quite the opposite is what happened. So this is what I said. I said, once the weather gets warmer, a lot more people will stop wearing masks. I already noticed a lot of people going maskless outside on the 11th. It'll take time for everyone to normalize not wearing them. Give Japan a year. Right now, many people are still being required to wear them at work until the end of the month or longer if they are a medical worker. Of course, there's a social stigma and pressure. Nobody wants to be the first person to go maskless, and people don't want to stand out by being the only one with no mask. There's also a fear of going maskless around the tourists or foreigners who stand out due to having stopped wearing their masks a year or longer ago, that have just started coming to Japan less than a year ago, and spring is very popular for travel because of the cherry blossoms and spring break. Then, of course, the white person that knows everything, and this person probably never spent 2 seconds in Japan. Then they said, they also, I think they're white, I don't know what the fuck they are, I don't really give a shit. They also wear masks more regularly than most other countries. Pre-COVID, it was not unusual to see people in masks all over. That's completely untrue. The first part was true, they wear masks more regularly than other countries. Yeah, true. Non-Asian countries, definitely. But it wasn't unusual? No, it was unusual. That was not a common thing to see. Did you see masks when you go outside? Yeah, pretty much on a daily basis. You probably see at least one person. Will you see multiple people and tons of people to the point where they didn't stand out? No, definitely not true. So, I said in response, just to be fair without being argumentative, I said, yes, you're right, of course. Masks are worn and seen daily, but I think, and by I mean, duh, obvious, bitch. But hold on, let me get back to the point. Yes, you're right, of course. Masks are worn and seen daily, but I think this post is highlighting that they were not worn by nearly everyone all the time. That's the purpose in the post, obvious. Pre-COVID, you stand out more with a mask than without one, especially during the warmer months. Right now is allergy season, so there's that too. 7 years ago, a college professor of mine had to apologize and explain to our class why she needed a mask, as it is usually a sign of being sick or allergies at work, and she didn't want us to be concerned. Once I started working, I was sick a few times and people questioned why I was wearing a mask. You could definitely count the masks you see in a day versus now, where I can count the people without one. Masks in Asia have always been around, but they were never seen on nearly everyone, even during spring and winter. Then, of course, instead of just admitting that I'm right, now let's create a new argument. It's so funny to me. Like, you could tell people that didn't go to university and or that went to university, but like just didn't fucking listen, because this is literally a fallacious argument. Let's go on. Then she says, that's probably all true. So just saying, okay, like, oh, well, you made a good point, whatever. But it's also a cultural issue, like it's become in the West. Where did I talk about what's going on in the U.S.? Where did I talk about this being political? We're talking about Japan and mask wearing in Japan. This has nothing to do with this conversation. This is their way of trying to get you to agree. I forgot what they call it. So basically, where you change the argument to make it where the argument becomes something different, so that this way you can still be right by getting the other person, to your opponent, to agree with you on this topic. And I do agree with that part of it. But it's like, that has nothing to do with what the original argument was. So whatever. Okay. No one is making rude comments to mask wearers, whereas that is not unheard of over here. And I can definitely see masks being worn more now, just in general, post-COVID, as a norm in Japan. But what did that have to do with what I said? I didn't ask if that will eventually completely be totally normal. But I'll also be honest with you, that's not going to last forever. It definitely won't. People will get over it. I mean, if you think about it, look at what happened during the whole swine flu situation with the Ebola outbreak, etc. Yes, people have fear of going certain places or eating certain foods, etc. But eventually things will return back to normal. Just like with travel. I'm sure a lot of people thought they never wanted to go to Asia. And now look, people want to go to China. People want to come to Japan. And Japan was one of the first places to have COVID, because of the Diamond Princess ship, whatever. So anyway, people change their minds, and there have been outbreaks in the past before. Nothing has been as big as this situation, so to speak, but still, I don't believe it's going to become so much more normalized, so to speak. People are going to get tired of wearing masks. It's already affected, wasted like 3+ years of people's lives and whatnot. Photos have been ruined, weddings have been ruined, local travel has been ruined, because a lot of people are afraid to even take off their masks to take pictures in public, class pictures, etc. Like, trust me, there's going to be a lot more people that are not going to be wearing masks, to the point where it will eventually become back to how it used to be. It might take some time, but it will get back to how it used to be. But yeah, I hate people like make dumb arguments like this. Like, just admit that you're wrong. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You don't live in Japan. You don't know about Japan. You don't know about how masks are seen, how they're worn, etc. here. It's okay to not know something. Just shut up, be humble, and be like, oh, I was wrong about something. I keep trying to argue your point. So again, don't get me wrong, I'm agreeing to a certain extent. I don't believe mask wearing is going to completely go away, not even this year. I think it will at least take a year for it to become where most people are not wearing a mask. But to be honest, I can see it even lasting longer than that. The reality is, do what you want to do. And the more people that are willing to be an individual and not wear a mask because they've chosen not to, the more other people will catch on. Because just like how people are wearing a mask because they don't want to stand out, nobody wants to be the only person wearing a mask, nobody else is wearing one. So if more people start doing what they truly want to do and stop following everyone else, playing monkey see, monkey do, and being afraid to stand out, then eventually, like with everything else in Japan, it'll become normal to not wear a mask all over again. But the reality is, not wearing a mask also does kind of hurt you in a sense too. I have no problem wearing it on public transportation, etc. It does protect you from being, getting sick. I'm inside of an enclosed space with a lot of old and sickly people, etc., that are being forced to go to work. So I kind of like the idea of wearing a mask in that sense, but I don't like it like in public situations. I don't like it, even when I'm inside of a mall. Anytime I'm inside of a space where like there's a lot of space to walk around and move, when I'm not super close to people and there's more ventilation, I don't feel the need to wear a mask. And I hated the fact that even going outside in Japan, you pretty much felt like you had to wear a mask because you felt wrong for doing it. I hated that, like, for example, going to the gym, you had to wear a mask. I didn't even think about the gym until just now. Like, this is a wonderful feeling to know, hey, I can exercise without having to wear a mask anymore. Like, that's great. So, yeah, things like that. I get what they're trying to say, but it's like, we're not on the subject of talking about how this was taken in America and became a political issue. We're talking about Japan, why people are still wearing them and why they haven't gone away. But the reality is, it's stupid at this point. Yes, of course, it does protect you from being sick, but you have to live your life. Are you going to live your whole life wearing a helmet and elbow and knee pads? Because by wearing it, think about how many times you've fallen and scraped your knee or bumped your head. I think about the fact that, because I wasn't wearing shoes, I broke my toe, about 6 months ago. Well, 8 months ago now. Think I'm trying to say, if I look at life that way, if I had worn protection, if I had done whatever, I could have avoided, getting this injury. You have to live your life. Part of living life is making mistakes, getting hurt, getting sick, whatever. And yeah, I kind of feel like this is a part of life. And to be honest, the other downside to constantly wearing a mask too is that, especially for younger people, you're not allowing yourself to get exposed to germs, etc. And germs, to a certain extent, are needed to help you build up a strong immune system. So in another sense, I kind of feel like wearing a mask all the time is also harming you. So it's using a lot of hand sanitizer and overwashing your hands, with soap and hot water, etc. So it's all a whole nother story. But yeah. Basically, this is my own 2 cents on it. I don't think this is going to go away anytime soon, but I will say that this part is not my own 2 cents. Japanese people are not wearing a mask because they're concerned about getting sick per se, but they're concerned about the social stigma behind it. They don't want to be the first person to stop wearing a mask. They don't want to be the only person showing their face. And of course, it's also a privacy issue too. People like that. They like being anonymous by wearing a mask. Now when people are taking photos and videos, etc., you don't stand out as much. You're not as recognizable. And again, you don't have to worry about wearing makeup. You don't have to worry about, not having a perfect nose or a perfect mouth, etc. There are so many people that look so much better wearing a mask. A lot more handsome, a lot more beautiful, etc. I cannot tell you how many dates I went on where a guy looked really good and they took off their mask and I was like, oh my god, you are hideous. Or they had like really, really, really bad skin or whatever the case is. The same thing goes with girls. I've seen girls wearing a mask and look really pretty and take off their mask and I'm like, oh my girl, put that shit back on. So I'm sure that guys can relate to this. Guys can relate to this too. What they've seen, when they go on dates with girls, etc. So not gonna go off with all of that crap. All I gotta say is this: it is Japan. It's a different culture, different rules, etc. If you don't want to wear a mask, you don't have to. Nobody's stopping you. But you are gonna stand out by being the one to not wear a mask. And yeah, that's just life. So that's it. That's my 2 cents on this topic. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a like, leave me a comment down below. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. As always, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Comic95. I have a Snapchat and TikTok at Comic the Savior, a Facebook fan page at Comic95 the Savior, and a website at Comic95.com. If you have any questions for me, please send me an email with your video ideas or leave a comment down below asking me your questions. I'll try my best to make a video answering them. And yeah, you can also check out my YouTube channel's homepage. I have videos on just about every topic: dating, studying, living, working in Japan. I've probably already answered your question in a video there, so please be sure to check those out as well. And other than that, thank you so much for listening and thank you for watching, and I hope you'll watch another video. Bye.